Hello there, BookTube. I hope you're doing all right. Today, I'd just like to do a quick video, um, really just thinking about 5 writers that I'd like to read more books by. This isn't adding on to my 2020, my 22 books that I want to read in 2022, and it's not adding on to the Mooks and the Gripes bucket list tag that I did a while ago. But it's really thinking about the writers themselves, because I've said before in my videos that I find the idea of coming up with a list of favourite writers quite hard, and I think that's because I might enjoy a book or two by a writer, but I don't really feel like I've read enough by that writer to really peg them down as a favourite yet. I mean, I am only 25 years old, so there's plenty of time for my taste to change and develop. And so these, not all of these, but some of these writers that I'm going to mention are writers that have impressed me in the past. And I kind of seriously think they could be contenders for future favourites, but I just don't feel like I've read enough by them yet. So if you've read anything by any of these writers and you have suggestions, please do let me know, because I'd love to read more by them. So we'll start off with number 1, and I've only really read one book by this writer, and it's Carson McCullers. This is the Ballad of the Sad Café, and I really loved this story. I really love her style and her voice as a writer, and so she's certainly a writer I'd like to read more by, but I'm really kind of stumped with what to read next. So I've never really picked up anything else by Carson McCullers, even though I'd love to read more. I think there are actually more stories in here that I don't really remember, so I might revisit this collection of short stories. But yeah, if there's anything by Carson McCullers that you'd recommend, let me know. The next one is a bit shameful on my part, really, because I've not read nearly as much by this writer that I'd like to, really, and that's Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. I've really barely scratched the surface with Sherlock Holmes, and I know I've read Hound of the Baskervilles. I think I've started one of the other Sherlock Holmes novels, but just never finished it. It was back when I was sort of in my mid-teens and wasn't really reading that much. My dad read a few Sherlock Holmes stories out loud, but I really can't remember any of them particularly well, and so really want to get into Sir Arthur Conan Doyle and the Sherlock Holmes stories. But yeah, if there are any particular stories that you would think are really good, please feel free to let me know. And then the next writer I've read a couple of books by, and they've both really impressed me, and that's Joseph Conrad. So I've read Nostromo. I read that last year and really loved it. And I've also read The Secret Agent, and again, I really love that. And there's just something particular about Joseph Conrad's voice and his style as a writer that I just find really satisfying. It's hard to pin down exactly what it is, but there's just something compelling about Joseph Conrad. Also, I found that so far. I do also have The Heart of Darkness, which is obviously a famous Conrad novel, or novella or novelette, and it's got some other stories in there. But beyond that, I'm a bit stumped, to be honest, with where to go next. And then I got my poet of the bunch, and it's an American poet called E Starlings, and I came across her through an essay that she wrote about form in poetry. So rather than free verse, the sort of formal poems, like sonnets, and using rhyme and meter and stuff like that. And she writes poems in form. Pretty much all the poems in here in this collection called Like are formal poems, and yet they're energetic and fun and well crafted, and they don't seem like she's just showing off, which I suppose you can get when modern poets are trying their hand at form. But I suppose that's the thing with E Starlings, is that she's not just trying her hand at it, she's been working at it for years, and you really get that, at least in this collection, that really comes across. And I also really enjoy the way she deals with sort of ancient Greek writing and, you know, the old classics. And I think she lives in Athens, and so there's that kind of connection with her daily life as well that's sort of unavoidable, but also the presence of you know, things going on right now in that part of the world also come into her poems, at least in this collection, in Like. So I'm sure there's plenty more out there that she's written, but so far I just haven't encountered it. And then our final writer for today, who I'm always tempted to say is one of my favourite writers, but again I just don't feel like I've read nearly enough by him to make that claim, and that's William Faulkner. So I've read Light in August. This is one of my favourite all-time novels. I think just because it was a novel that really turned me on to what a novel could do. You know, it's kind of quite different to a more traditional sort of Victorian novel, or, you know, something from before the Victorians even. And so yeah, I found it exciting. I quite enjoy his writing style, and so yeah, this was a favourite. But I also read As I Lay Dying. I really enjoyed that too. It's probably the only novel where I've been able to memorise an entire chapter. My mother is a fish. And then the only other thing I've read by Faulkner is Go Down Moses, a collection of short stories. And I didn't really enjoy this as much. Can't really say why, but yeah, I just didn't like it as much as the two novels that I read. And again, I know there's Absalom, and there's The Sound and the Fury. I think they're two biggies for Faulkner that I just haven't got to yet. So I'd like to get to those, but again, with any of these writers, if there are any more books by them that you've read and you would recommend that I check out, then please let me know. So I'll leave those books I've read by them down in the description, just so there's like a record of them. And if, yeah, any suggestions, just let me know. I'll leave it there. But also, if there are, you know, 5 writers or just a couple of writers that you'd like to read more by, feel free to, you know, talk about them in the comments as well. And you never know, maybe there's someone who loves those writers too, and they can give you some suggestions. So yeah, but anyway, I'll leave it there for now. I hope you're doing well, and I'll see you soon in another video. Okay, bye bye.